Towers of Aghasba is an open-world fantasy experience where you're tasked with balancing creating your ideal village with nurturing the world's beautiful ecosystems. Its early access release is just around the corner, so here's everything you need to know. Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm Sarah Sunstone, and today we have a brand new episode of Thinking Out Loud, the show where I explore a variety of interesting and exciting gaming topics and share my honest thoughts with you all. Today's hot topic is Towers of Aghasba and what you need to know about this game ahead of its release. Be sure to shine the lovely like button if you find these videos helpful, and make sure you're subscribed with your notifications on for more cozy and variety content. Otherwise, without any further ado, let's get right into it. Towers of Aghasba offers players an expansive sandbox to explore. However, the now desolate land wasn't always so barren. Once a thriving home to the Shimu tribe, Aghasba was all but completely deadened by the eruption of a dark, withered force, calcifying the land and causing its inhabitants to flee. This is where you come in. As a descendant of the original Shimu, you have returned to Aghasba with the task of restoring the environment to its former glory, rebuilding your ancestors' civilization, and discovering the origin of the cursed withered. By embarking on this epic adventure, you will breathe life back into Aghasba, forging a new legacy for all. Along your journey, you will meet a variety of memorable characters and uncover emotional storylines to follow. The team has thoughtfully crafted various animated cutscenes for players to enjoy. However, much of the game's story is also presented in a discovery fashion. As such, you will be gently guided towards uncovering the island's many secrets that will become unveiled through features like archaeology, relic discovery, and finding other pieces of history along your travels. As you gather evidence, it's up to you to connect the dots to learn what happened to the Shimu people. Although arriving in Aghasba to the sight of barren land may seem grim at first, with a small shift in perspective, it can also be seen as a blank canvas to restore and create upon. Typically, when you begin a survival or sandbox game, the initial goal is to start gathering every resource you come across. You pick up every branch, flower, mushroom, rock, to start establishing yourself in this new world. However, in Towers of Aghasba, there won't be much of anything for you to harvest in the beginning. Instead, you'll need to build up nature first in order to discover and collect necessary resources. Your first task for this big undertaking is to plant something called a colossal seed, which will grow into a colossal tree, kickstarting life on the land. You will also meet a sprite character who will give you quests that will lead you to grow the colossal tree taller and taller. As plants begin to grow in the area you've begun to restore, animals will be lured into the area. Plus, you will be able to make harvests, which can be used for crafting projects. According to the developers, players will have complete freedom over where they would like to plant the colossal seed, transforming the surrounding land depending on this decision. This means that while the starting landscape is handcrafted by the team, players' choices will shape what type of vegetation and animals will appear, so each player's islands will vary. There are 3 different main ecosystems available, each with different trees, shrubs, and plants to grow and harvest. The player will need to plant new seeds to maintain and enhance the lush vegetation, use fertilizer to boost growth, and even help wounded creatures that live there. Players will also be tasked with striking a balance between giving and taking from the land. If you overharvest, while you won't be punished in a way that regresses your gameplay, you will progress slower, as it takes time for life to regenerate and respawn. This gameplay system encourages and challenges players to act in moderation when it comes to harvesting and hunting, because if you strike a healthy balance, you will progress more optimally. I just love these concepts and can't wait to see what unique flora and fauna I will be able to create and attract on my island, depending on where I plant that initial colossal seed and how it differs from others. The developers further shared that there is something called an amity system, which involves a currency that you gain or lose based on your choices, which teaches players about moderation once again rather than hoarding, which is a very common theme in many other survival games. So this feels like a bit of a breath of fresh air. In terms of harvesting actions, while the game will have more traditional methods of collecting, like breaking rocks and chopping down trees, they have also included some more unique mechanics, like climbing atop a creature's back to harvest something from it, or healing a wounded creature in exchange for a reward. There is the option to hunt, but you can also choose to be kind and feed the animals, who each have their own preference of food that they will love. I imagine the amity system might come into play in this realm of the game specifically. The creatures you'll meet range from small rabbit-sized animals to towering, whimsical highwalkers, with over 40 creatures to be discovered at launch. The game will also have fishing, however, it will not involve a traditional fishing rod. Instead, players will enjoy tether bow fishing with over 70 varieties of fish to catch. The fish can be used in cooking recipes, potion crafting, or as feed for other animals. And honestly, this looks like a lot of fun. I definitely get excited when developers choose to try out new things or traditional mechanics. You will also be equipped with a Shimu Dex, which will keep track of all the fish you've caught, the animals you've discovered, and more. And tying everything back into the diverse ecosystems, both the land animals you encounter, along with the types of fish you catch, will depend on where you're creating your ecosystem. So these too can vary from player to player. There will also be ancient ruins that you will come across throughout the world, which can be repaired and restored to their former glory. You will also discover relics that can be contributed to a museum that you will build. At the museum, there will be a historian character who will reward you with recipes as you make discoveries. So as you can see, there are plenty of activities to enjoy, with the team stating that there is even more to do than what they've shared so far. These activities, along with ecosystem restoration, will both lead into the next main game system, which is town building, with the goal of re-establishing the Shimu civilization to its former glory and perhaps even surpass what your ancestors were able to create. This is another feature that I'm very excited for, especially with what we've seen of the possibilities so far. Parallel to the 3 different ecosystems, there are also 3 different types of towns: the Citadel, the farming town, and the mining town. However, regardless of what type of town you choose to build, as the name of the game suggests, within all 3 types you will be building towers, which you will work to grow taller and taller, similar to the colossal trees, unlocking more building types and crafting stations through progression. This includes the hearth, clay pit, farm, compost shed, blacksmith, stone mill, and more. Some of these structures act as crafting stations, while others are converting stations dressed as buildings. Just like the ecosystems, the location you choose for building your town and how you arrange it is completely up to you. There will also be hundreds of decoration items available, from very small pieces of decor to massive statues and windmills. You can build gardens, parks, shrines, temples, a quaint village by the sea, or a mining town by the mountains. It's all completely up to you. There will also be a simple merchant system, although little has been shared on this to date. The team explained that they hope to expand this over the course of development, but have confirmed that there will be ways to earn gold through selling, converting, and scrapping items. While the game highlights plenty of vibrant and lush settings to enjoy, there is also a darker side to Aghasba. Specifically, you'll come across areas around the world where you won't be able to grow or build anything due to the withering. At least, not until these areas have been revitalized. To restore each area to a basic biome, players will participate in combat experiences, will be challenged to complete quests, and will be asked to contribute resources towards ancient shrines. Each withered region will need to be unlocked via these activities, which will also become progressively more challenging as you go. The enemies will be more difficult to defeat, and the items required to restore the withered land will also become more difficult to obtain. Once each area has reached its restored state, you can then begin to build and nurture the more diverse ecosystems with the colossal seeds and colossal trees. Overall, world traversal appears to be very fun, with the team describing the world as a free-form jungle gym. You'll be able to climb basically anywhere, including up many of the trees that you grow yourself. They all have interesting shapes to navigate, and they can also bear fruit that you can collect while climbing. And as we've seen in the gameplay showcase, we will also be able to swim, which includes diving to become completely submerged underwater. Plus, it seems that we'll also have access to a glider and, of course, the ability to acquire mounts. Now, Towers of Aghasba can be enjoyed completely on your own in single-player mode or with friends, with its multiplayer systems being designed in a way that actually took initial inspiration from Animal Crossing New Horizons with island visits. Every player will have their own island, and you will be able to invite up to 3 friends over to share in the experience together. However, Towers of Aghasba will take things further with game design that will really encourage players to work together, especially when layered with the unique ecosystem mechanics. You might come across a new animal on a friend's island that doesn't exist on your own, or perhaps your friends will be able to catch certain fish when visiting you that they've never been able to find themselves. While resource collecting on each other's islands is possible, you can also opt to trade or implement a mixture of both. And we can't forget, getting to tour one another's towns will likely also be a highlight of multiplayer, along with taking on combat encounters with friends, which will likely prove to be very helpful. Further, it seems that there will be many other unique ways to enjoy gameplay together. For example, the developers shared that one player could aim their fishing bow at the water, while another dives down, swimming to herd the fish toward the catching zone. So it seems like there are a lot of creative possibilities for cooperative gameplay, which I can't wait to discover. Towers of Aghasba is releasing into early access on November 19th for PC via Steam and also on the PlayStation 5. And the team hopes to involve the community in shaping the future of this ambitious game to allow for better balancing, polish, and iterations of the game's core components, as well as introduce new content and features based directly on player feedback. The game will launch with 6 regions to explore, 3 types of ecosystems to grow, and 3 types of villages to develop. There will be over 50 creatures to discover and over 150 decorations to craft, all of which we have discussed today. In terms of story, the current questline ends with a satisfying conclusion, but also hints at narrative developments to come. So you don't have to worry about an unfinished story. At the same time, there will be more chapters ahead. Single-player and co-op gameplay will both be available at launch, with multiplayer capped at 4 players per session. It is anticipated that the early access period will last for around 12 to 18 months if you're curious about an approximate timeline, with regular content updates scheduled along the way. We actually already have a development roadmap, so let's take a look at that next. Later this year, we will receive an update with post-launch support, focused on quality of life updates, along with the usual polishing, bug fixing, and optimizing. However, next year, in Q1, we will be introduced to a new region, a new quest line, and a fresh cast of characters. Time of day related gameplay will also be added, including time-based creature spawns and new creature types to discover. Offline play mode will also arrive, which is great because I think this is very important to offer players. Plus, additional glider traversal methods will be added, along with a photo mode and player emotes. In Q2 of 2025, new mounts will arrive, along with a mount management system. Player character customizations will also be introduced, along with new multiplayer experiences and activities. This includes new creatures, new quests, and crossplay, meaning folks can play together regardless of chosen platform. The team will also be working on introducing improved townsfolk AI and improved Shimudex entries. By Q3 of 2025, an all-new Withered NPC character will be introduced, along with a new region, new questline, and giant demon combat, which is probably related to the Withered NPC. Plus, environmental cold effects and resistances will be added, with another new region, more new creatures, and even creature relationships. By the end of next year, in Q4 of 2025, the shallow water biome type will be added, which involves a new region and ecosystem, new creatures, new foliage, and new questlines, plus the addition of a charming fishing village. And finally, looking even further ahead into 2026, the team will be adding increased tower limits, new withered content, new major quest lines, environmental hot effects and resistances, new regions, new creatures, town happiness, and building customization. Of course, keep in mind that due to the nature of early access, these plans are subject to change, especially depending on player feedback and just how development goes. However, this does give us a really good idea of what to expect moving forward and what features are planned that we can look forward to. As I previously mentioned, Towers of Aghasba is releasing into early access on November 19th, for PC via Steam, and also on the PlayStation 5 with support for the DualSense controller, including haptic feedback and trigger effects on PlayStation. If you pre-order the game on PlayStation 5, you will receive exclusive in-game rewards, including 5 unique decorations, 3 exclusive masks, and a one-of-a-kind mount. However, if you'd like to get the game on Steam, you can still obtain these in-game rewards by picking up the game anytime before December 19th of 2024. It's also worth noting that the game's price will increase when it arrives at its full release, so keep this in mind when you're making your decisions. I personally will be playing on PlayStation 5. So that's everything you need to know about Towers of Aghasba ahead of its early access release, along with my initial thoughts. But what did you think? In a recent poll, I asked, which feature included in Towers of Aghasba are you most curious about? And by far, the winning choice with 50% of the vote was ecosystem restoration. Based on what we know so far, this feature seems to be quite the standout. It aims to deliver a really interesting and unique experience for players, and I'm so curious to see how it actually manifests in the game. You know, depending on where exactly you plant that colossal seed, regardless, I think it's going to be very rewarding to see the barren lands, come back to life. Next, 24% of you were most curious about building and crafting. It does seem like there'll be lots of different decorations that we can use to design the town. I'm curious to see all the different buildings. I personally think I want to make a farming town, and I especially want lots and lots of flowers, like some of the ones we saw in the trailer. 19% of you were most curious about the world's lore, and I think this is maybe one of the biggest unknowns. I think that's good going into a game release because it's really way more exciting, I think, to discover everything when you're in there. I also do like there's a balance of like cutscenes and discovery type storytelling. I like finding little pieces of lore and like little clues and secrets around the world. And only 8% of you were most curious about the multiplayer features, but I wonder if maybe this might be higher now that you've watched the video, because, a lot of games just have the average and expected multiplayer features, like, oh, just do everything together, or like, oh, just visit each other. But it seems like they're actually implementing some really unique systems in the game, like the fishing example I gave. Plus, in the roadmap, they also shared they're going to be adding additional like multiplayer activities and stuff. So I'm actually really curious to see what we can do together in the game. But there you have it, friends. That was everything I think you need to know about Towers of Aghasba, which appears to be a very promising and high-quality open-world fantasy experience. Let me know down in the comments if you'll be playing this game in early access, if maybe you're gonna wait until closer to the full release, which feature is most impressive, interesting, or exciting. Anything and everything, I always love hearing from you. And with all that being said, thank you so much for watching. I love you all, and until next time, take care.